Well, that was a couple tremendous failures in a row, and I guess what happens when
That
you
was
don't
three in a
do this
row
for a
there.
couple weeks. My goodness.
Goodness gracious. Do you want
And then
to
I
do you want to
tried
go back to bed
I
and
tried
restart?
Jeez, yeah. I'm gonna start back this morning. And then I tried to text. We have a private chat in addition to the chat that UFair users, and by users I mean there are 0 people. There's a Heath that are watching. And I didn't even put the message in the private chat. I just put it for all you to see it. So there you go. You had to click live twice. Didn't know that until the third time around.
Fun fact. Fun fact for you folks. But yes, Vito, we are back after what, month and a half?
I think it was 3 weeks.
Think of 3 weeks? Yeah, about 3 weeks off there. Life got a little hectic for the Vito and Stieg show. So we took a little hiatus there as we delved into our real life jobs and shit that we have to do every single day. But nonetheless, we are back tonight with another edition of the USF Roundup. The late May, the May edition, which is recapping very quickly everything that's happened over the last 3 weeks. But more importantly, Vito, what's been going on recently? How's life been treating you besides hectic?
Oh, we're having a good time. Molly and I are catching up on a bunch of TV shows we missed out during Italy when we're not working, and just working a lot of shows. We put up a musical at USF, and some people said they saw it and they really enjoyed it. There were a lot of big houses, but hey, we move on. We do work, we grind out, we do a good thing. So there you go.
Yeah, we're always grinding here at the in the Daily Stampede and on the USF Roundup. We're grinding 24/7, 365 every day, baby.
And as they say, when USF football gets a first down, keep climbing. So, Steve, what about you?
I hate it.
How are you? What have
I
you been
hate
up
that
to?
every time too.
Me too.
Oh God, it's been like nonstop. I hate how social I am sometimes because I get like in these moods of like doing a lot of things of like just various capacities of of how like work keeps me busy, and then I get the idea that like, oh yeah, I'm gonna run a 5K, I'm gonna train for that, and then oh yeah, I have like 2 birthdays to celebrate and a wedding to go to, and then so like my life just at points like I'll do nothing for like a week and I'll be like, fuck this, I need to do something, and then I do things for like a month, and then I'm like, fuck this, I want to do nothing, and then I just go back and forth. And so besides the wedding and the birthday celebrations and the the spring game and everything else that have been going on for the last couple of weeks, we're also planning a trip to Europe here at the end of this month. So trying to keep all of that stuff organized at the same time as everything else that's going on. Needed some time. Needed some free Mondays every once in a while.
And let me tell you, Steve, I live vicarious through you and your Instagram stories, because sometimes I'm like, man, you did a wedding that day, and then the next day you're at Disney partying for a birthday, and then you have to go to work the next day. I'm like, man, I can't. I'm not trying to say I'm an old guy, but man, that's hard to do. So I live vicariously through you and Paige, who always seem to have a good time. But like you said, sometimes you just need to. Something's got to give. So sometimes we just we would try to get this show going. We'd even do all the research and be like, yeah, this isn't happening. How about tomorrow? Oh, I can't do tomorrow. How about the next day? Oh, I can't do it. And a couple times it was literally the day of. Like, I just have to now work a show. So hey, sometimes it happens, but we're back. And I want to talk more about your Europe trip, but we won't waste any time here on the USF Roundup. It's got to be May edition. We're going to do a separate chat for that to talk about where you're going in Europe and how fun that's going to be. Because
in fact, we have an entire Discord filled with special interest chats that people can waltz on in on, talk about TVs and movies and dogs and traveling and all that stuff. So if you're interested in joining the USF, or excuse me, the Daily Stampede Discord, where we also provide nuggets of information about USF athletics that we accumulate through various means, whether it's myself or Sean or Colin coming in from the rafters to drop on campus stadium information. We provide, I think, everything and anything that you would need, including ways to get tickets to USF sporting events, or if you want to just vent about politics for 30 minutes, we have a chat for that. We try to make this as welcoming, especially with how Twitter's been, on the decline recently. So we always try to make sure that we provide good content for you all, a good space for everyone to communicate and be around. And then Heath also just absolutely ruins a channel every other day whenever it's a holiday, which they're fantastic if you haven't read them, if you haven't received them. I hope that everyone receives a Heath copy pasta at some point in life.
I'm so happy for those copy pastas, mostly because then I'm reminded there's a holiday. Because sometimes it's like, oh, I didn't know what Arbor Day was.
Star Wars and Cinco. Oh God, Paige, we got a Star Wars and a Cinco de Mayo copy pasta coming from Heath soon.
Oh no, you know what's later on this month? Oh no, Heath, no. What's later this month, Steeg?
Memorial Day.
No. Well, yes, but no. Mother's Day.
Oh yes. Oh
No.
yes. Mommy's Day is coming up.
We're not starting the month off right.
Paige hates them. But yeah, so back to reality for a second, our where we suspend ourselves from reality for a little bit in the Discord. We do have some news to catch up on over the last couple of weeks. Particularly, we'll start with men's basketball, since there's not too much going on there right now, but there's still some stuff to catch up on. There's a lot of stuff that's up in the air right now when it comes to USF men's basketball. Currently, to kind of get backing on things, current head coach, Coach Amir Abdur-Rahim from Kennesaw State. We have that confirmed. And by confirmed, I mean on gousfbulls.com. When you go under staff, it's Coach Amir and then 2 graduate assistants, and that's kind of it right now. So yes, I did that on purpose. And there's been non-confirmed but confirmed assistant coaches. So East Tennessee State's former head coach Desmond Oliver will be joining Coach Amir's staff, as well as William Small and Ben Fletcher, who were the assistant head coaches with Amir over in Kennesaw State. So leading that into the next point, I have heard some things, and I haven't put this in the Discord for a very good reason, and that's because I know, and Vito, you know me, normally I'd put everything in there. I need to get everything double sourced correct before I spill anything, because this is information that I'm not privy to share. But I'm going to do it now. I have heard some things that the staff is going to be a little bit more fleshed out than your normal basketball staff in the last couple of years. Historically, it's been breaking news. Historically, you have head coach, you have associate head coach, then you have assistant coach, and assistant coach. So between 3 to 4 assistant coaches at a time. I've heard it's going to be a little bit more fleshed out. There's going to be some more roles, some more responsibilities. It's going to be pretty akin to how Coach Golish has built out his staff. If you've looked through gousfbulls.com for football, you'll notice that there are some rather unique titles coming out of the woodworks there. So one, for instance, is a director of internal recruiting for men's for football. I've heard that there's going to be like a chief of staff with men's basketball, and then a few positions under that, a few director of operations, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But there's going to be a few more specialized roles within USF men's basketball to give that program the support that it desperately needs. Because for as great as the Yuengling Center is, and how much money and how much renovations they're putting into making men's basketball a premier thing in the Tampa Bay area, they haven't exactly given it the staff help that it's been needing over the last couple of years. Brian Gregory, it was Brian Gregory and then 4 assistant coaches. So they fleshed out that assistant pool, gave it a little bit more dough in it, which, by the way, I'm going on a little tangent here. I have no idea where this money's coming from. I have no clue. I have no clue where they're paying for the stadium. I have no clue where they're paying for all these renovations they're doing. I have no clue how they're paying for all these staff members. There's a good chance that we're about to make another staff change here in a little bit. I have no clue how they're going to pay for all of these fired coaches on top of the new coaches that they're paying, but somehow they're paying it. Whomever is the sugar daddy for USF, keep it going. I love it.
Steeg, don't ask too many questions. As things go on, they go on, and we'll just keep trucking along. I guess that's the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing. We should be asking more questions, but I'm with you there. Who knows? But it's happening. Things are happening.
Exactly.
So that's a good thing. I want to get with Seth Varnador at the Illuminati podcast. We do one of the big ones to discuss more about what the reasoning to having more of these assistant coaches and maybe having more of a recruiting staff is where eventually we're going to be going in FBS, because you have so much to do with retention and the portal, and it's 7 days a week, 365. It already was before. Now you have to double that. So having dedicated staffers is probably going to be a good thing. And how that's going to happen for the future of college sports.
Exactly. And so for basketball, they after all the exoduses and everything that happened, USF was left with 3 scholarship players on the roster. Selton Miguel, Corey Walker, and Sam Hines were the 3 leftover players. There's a reason why the 3 of them were leftover. They're both juniors by credit who have transferred in. And according to the NCAA rules, they would have to get a waiver in order to transfer again, which that's just it's not worth the pain and the hassle to go through for that. The grass might be greener for them, but at the same time, I think all 3 of those can be likely big contributors for USF next year under new head coach Amir Abdur-Rahim. But nonetheless, everyone else that you have been seeing over the last couple of years, they're gone. There will be, once again, no USF men's basketball player that has started and ended their collegiate basketball career at the University of South Florida since Torlin Fitzpatrick.
And I hope at this point that's a record that stands for all of our lifetimes, because that is incredible. But also with basketball, changing from one program to the other, it seems to be easier transition. So, you figure out this isn't the right play style for you, you move on.
Exactly. So no big deal. Shout out to Jameer Chaplin, who started and graduated, but has another year of eligibility. Had the COVID stuff not happen, he probably would be the new trivia fact for that. But as far as the transfer portal and recruiting goes, Coach Amir has been busy despite his staff, quote unquote, not being finalized. 3 transfers from Kennesaw State followed Coach Amir to USF. That's bringing Chris Youngblood, Brandon Stroud, and Kason Jennings over to USF, over bringing them down to Tampa. And then over the past week, USF got an additional 3 commitments from various levels. So the first one being Jose Placer from UNF, guard transfer there. They got a center high school commit from the state of Iowa. His name is Daniel Tobiloba. He is the former Kennesaw State commit, so he got an NLI release, was able to do it that way. And then most recently, as of today, USF got a commitment from Kason Pryor, who is from JUCO. He led Northwest Florida State to the national championship game and was additionally an All-American there. He transferred there from Boise State. So getting a guy who he had spent 2 years at Boise State, 1 year in JUCO, and has 3 years of eligibility remaining there. So that's the current state of USF men's basketball. They still need about 4 more players. Namely, they're probably really, really itching for an experienced center of some sort. Currently, only 1 on the roster. They are recruiting 1 out of high school, but I'd imagine that their Coach Amir is firing off the hooks for a guy that's 7 foot, 250, 260 pounds, and can pound the paint because they're very skinny right now, to say the least. So, but yeah, probably about an additional 4 more players. They'll probably finish out their roster. I'm hoping we'll hear everything get finalized here soon. I'm not sure exactly what the hang up on the staff being finalized and everything else, but I'm not going to question it because, frankly, they work under their own. They march to their own drum at this point. No reason to question what USF Athletics is doing at this point. They're building an on-campus stadium. If I could slide into Michael Kelly's DMs and ask him why the staff is not finalized yet, I would. But he's got bigger fish to fry at this point.
And frankly, maybe you're looking for the right person. So who really knows? I did see. Let me know. Didn't Russell Chiwa transfer and actually commit to a program?
Yes, he did. So there was an option for Russ to come back to USF. The door was open for him as well as a few other guys that I can't remember off the top of my head, but he ended up committing to Georgia this morning. So he'll be working with Tom Green, or not Tom Green, Mike White.
Yep.
Very strange. I almost messed that up.
Not the football player, the former UF men's basketball coach who's related to Danny White.
I know there off the top of my head, I can name 4 different Mike Whites.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a pretty standard. I mean,
yeah. but they're all like pseudo celebrities of some sort. Like it's weird. It's weird that it's like that's the name. I could like if I said the word Mike White to like 3 different groups of people, all 3 of them. Like I know a Mike White from Survivor, a Mike White from USF football, and a Mike White in college basketball.
As Heathy Poop says, the legend of White Mike grows once more.
They keep growing. And then flip it over to the other side of the Movement Center there. Women's basketball is in full offseason mode as it currently stands. Sad news, Vito. Sad news.
I don't like it. What's the news?
We lost a very prized member of the USF women's basketball coaching staff. I'm quite sad about it. Coach Yo, Coach Alicia, which, by the way, I'm super happy for her. Every interaction that I've had with Coach Yo has been incredible. She is the most well-deserving person for this. But she got hired to be the head coach at South Alabama. So the South Alabama Jaguars.
Go USA. And is that the second coach on Jose's staff that went on to get a head coaching job elsewhere?
Yes, and even like good. I mean, she was an assistant coach and recruiting coordinator. So she was like, I mean, she's high up there, but she's not like an associate head coach. So that's pretty good that's pretty good staff you're putting together with rip Mike Muggs. The USF to USA pipeline is strong. But that's the sad news too. That's the big sad news. She's just a gem. She was the one that started the USF women's basketball recruiting page. She's an absolutely wonderful person. So I'm super happy that she gets to stretch her wings and fly and lead a program there. And then on top of go on.
I was just gonna say, I mean, that's great. When it's once, it's like okay, and when it's 2, it's a trend. So now all of a sudden you can start bringing in some talent who can say, hey, if I learn under Jose, I can go ahead and have my own career as a head coach, and that's huge. And that's still, I mean, Jose sticking around with USF and building what he's built and continuing that building is just every year there's something different that he's providing, and just having now a coaching tree is another part of it. So
yes, excellent. That was the big thing missing on his legacy was a coaching tree, and boy howdy, he's doing it. On top of that departure, 2 additional departures to speak of on the players side of things. Bella Weary and Priscilla Williams entered the transfer portal. I think that was it actually.
Those are only 2 I recall.
Yeah. So those 2 have departed. And then on top of that, USF brought in Romy Levy, I think is her name, the transfer from Auburn, which was a very quick thing. It was like season over on like Friday, and then like she committed on like Tuesday or something like that. So that was we've been working on this one for a little bit, kind of commitment. Let me see this real quick.
And originally from Israel, right? Played on the national team.
I heard it's really nice there. But yeah, so international, it hit all the boxes that you would normally see from USF recruiting. International with a lot of international experience, playing at a high level there, playing from a high program at Auburn. So, and she got good minutes. She's coming off an ACL injury from the season before, but she's finally kind of got her feet back under her. Got some good minutes last year, and I'm double checking on the website that I use. Yes, those were the only 2 departures so far. So Jose's on the recruiting trail right now. He's looking at more just based off of the offers going out. A lot of 24, 25s, and 26 kids being offered, which means he probably has the plans to fill the remaining scholarships already in place. So we'll be on the lookout for a Baybound Bowl here soon.
And Jose, if you're listening and you want to have any announcements here on the Daily Stampede Twitch feed or the Bluminati podcast, just call Nate.
Or better yet, Jose, if you've got some free time and you want to meet us out in Barcelona or Madrid, or Israel for that matter, we'll be there. Just hit me up. We'll get some beers together and smoke some cigars in the Shook.
That's great. And strangely enough, when I was in Italy, I saw on the Instagram feed that Brian Gregory was out there as well. I almost shot him a DM and said, "Hey, coach, meet me in Florence."
You want to put the Pippa harness again?
Yeah, came really close. But then you know what? That's not the greatest of ideas. So before we transition over, I had somebody ask, and I'm going to bring it back up. Wow, it's all the way up here. What you drinking from my buddy Jake? It's a mango high lie. First of its kind, or not first of its kind. The first time I'm trying this. It's May. It's practically summer. Let's get a little fruit in your beer. As I say, mango high lie.
And I've got Dead Parrot,
Absolutely.
which is we got lime, we got fruit. It's
Absolutely.
fruit in beer season, baby.
Tasty.
Fruit in beer season.
Tasty indeed.
God, I don't want to talk about this one.
So, and the only thing I'm going to bring up is as we transition to baseball. Since we last left our heroes, USF is 2-9. However, myself and Jake actually went to one of the wins versus UCF. So we're coming to the conclusion he's the good luck charm and should go to every game from here on out. Because not only did they go to that game, but that was a 5 home run smash out 14-8. It got a little squirrely at the end there, but that was a very exciting game. However, the rest of the series have not been. So USF is 2-9 in their last 11. They lost the series at Houston. They did get a win. Then for the midweek game, they got run ruled by UNF in the Paige Steig Classic. They lost the series to UCF, in which we went to the game and watched the victory. But the other 2 games they lost. They got run ruled again in their midweek clash with FGCU. So you got run ruled by UNF and FGCU in back-to-back weeks. Then this past weekend, they got swept by Cincy. It was a away series, but they were outscored 30-20. I just put a note that just says, ugh. When we left, USF was looking good. They were top 3 in the conference. But after that 2-9, they were 17-28 overall and 6-9 in the AAC. Don't say it. It's not nice. They're tied for 5th with UCF and Tulane. Surprisingly enough, ECU is 3rd, Houston is 2nd, and Wichita State's 1st. They got that right?
So yeah.
Yep. So strangely enough, ECU looked really, really good. That is your standings currently. I put to find out the number of runs given up in this past 11 games. The Steig just put a lot, so it's not.
When you get run ruled, when you get run ruled twice. Actually, I think they got run ruled. I think 4 times overall, because I think they got run ruled at Houston, and I think they got run ruled at Central Florida.
Yes. So yeah, that last game was 11-1 run rule. The FGCU game was 14-3,
mm-hmm.
and 10-0 by
score.
UNF.
Yep.
So that's 3 run rules.
It's a shame because if you could take last year's team, which had phenomenal pitching, and bring it into this year's team, which has phenomenal hitting, you'd have a great team. You'd have a team that's probably competing for a conference championship at this point and is playing a lot better. This team right now is slugging. Like, this is one of the best hitting teams that I can remember from USF in a long time. Sometimes their hitting is not as timely. They have been leaving quite a few batters on base, but overall they're getting hits. Like, this is not a team that's struggling to make contact like they were last year. You know, they're really just, the pitching is just not there right now, and it's a shame because I don't necessarily think, and this is the optimist in me, that you can really fault Billy Mole on this one. You know, you can recruit your ass off. You can bring in all this talent like you did last year, where you had a Ryan Kirkering and Jack Jasiak and a few other like just all-star guys. Then you bring in 2 top-class pitchers as well. But then 5 of your top pitchers all leave to go to the MLB draft and all choose to go to the MLB.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, then of course you're throwing out rotational, there seems to be a bug that's happening in this pitching staff right now. And I don't think it's necessary to put Coach Billy Mole on the hot seat for not having pitchers because they got drafted to the MLB. Like, well, sure, at this point, you need to have enough depth behind them. That's the fault I can give them at this point, is that the depth is just not there. I mean, they're throwing out true freshmen Lawson Gailey like twice a week. Like that's just not good.
It's tough because your offense comes back and and you end up seeing, and I'll get the notifications from the USF app, and it's just like, after the third, okay, they're up 3-2, and it's like, oh, this looks good. After the sixth, they're down 11-3. It's like, oh, and then you at the end, it's like, oh, it was 11-6. It's like, okay, we keep trying. I mean, they're hitting 272 as an offense, but they're giving up 286.
Right.
It's just it's hard to do that. And from season to season, and especially when you're pitching true freshmen, like you said. And there's a lot of bright spots on offense. It's just, getting that pitching staff. And it's like one thing then leads to the other, especially on a weekend series when some guys can figure out. So, yeah, it really stinks. They look like they were coming out strong in the beginning of conference play, and then it's just petering off. I'm just hoping they can go ahead and get something going for tournament season, and they don't go 1-2 barbecue the conference tournament. Maybe you get something going in Clearwater, but it's just tough. When you're getting run rude, that's what's tough. So next up, they have Stetson on Tuesday. So let's see if they can right the ship here. And then they play at Memphis this weekend. So the ability's there to kind of turn it around. You played some tough squads, but it's just, yeah.
Yeah, it's not as fun. I'm gonna have to double check, but I'm pretty sure. And again, I'm gonna jinx this because Bull has continued to recruit at an elite level. And when I say an elite level, I'm not talking like American Athletic Conference elite. I'm talking like nationally, like top 20, baseball and commits. So they're doing fine on the recruiting track. I'm gonna check it real quick on the website, because they historically have been recruiting well. They've been recruiting like top of the conference over the last couple of years as well. And looking through their commit list that they currently have through Perfect Game, last year they were talking a lot about Eric Snow being one of those guys that they were really looking forward to, and he ended up being obviously like a big time player for them. They have, let me see.
Just while you're doing that, jump in. Eric Snow right now, 331 average, 947 OPS. Like he is doing his job. 534 slugging. I'll add up. I'm looking at these on gousfbulls.com. So sometimes those stats are not necessarily up to date, but Eric Snow has been a really nice surprise. He's also been really good in the field too. So he's an elite player, especially on the offensive side. They have guys. We saw him smash 5 home runs pretty easily. It's just get another round of pitching recruiting and see what happens next year.
Exactly. So they have 7 pitchers committed in the class of 2023. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 5 pitchers committed in the class of 2024. So they're very clearly knowing where some of their issues are. I wish I could see, and I don't remember how to get to the rankings of the teams. Let's see if I can find that. Let's have some fun. But yeah, so they're recruiting well still. Again, I'm slower to want to fire a guy. I like when the writing is very much on the wall consistently, like that's when you can probably like start to make moves and everything. But firing should be the last ditch effort to try to fix the program. And I don't think USF baseball is at the point where you can do that just yet. I think you can probably afford to give them another year, see if there is that consistency that you get, a good pitching year, a good hitting year, and you put it together in year 3 kind of thing, like they did a couple of years ago. But again, it's not my decision. It's not our decision. Everyone can talk about it all they want on Twitter and everything like that. We're not the ones that are going to make the decision. And thank God we aren't.
And I'll go ahead and add, because I've seen this a lot. That one super regional year was a fluke and it shouldn't count. Absolutely not. That super regional year. How often does USF go to super regional? Very rarely. And it happened in this head coach's tenure. Absolutely, that counts. That's going to give you a lot of leash. I'm not like I know that doesn't seem like good enough, but that's going to give you a lot of leash, because that was an incredible ending to the year. That doesn't just magically happen out of nowhere. That is on the backs of recruiting and the backs of coaching. So I think it's just like you mentioned, the way the MLB draft works sometimes can kill you because you can't then replace that guy if they decide to get drafted and go to do the minor league system as opposed to go to school. And so you can't really, judge that. So we'll see what happens at the end of the year. Hopefully they could turn it around. And I think I saw it here. Yep. It's likely. What have you done for me lately? So if you can go ahead and do something and get deep into the conference tournament, then you can kind of see some full momentum going into next year. But otherwise, if they continue this, it's a tough ending to the year.
Right. 44th ranking wise this year, and then 45th next year for class of 2024. So recruiting's going well. And again, just don't get 1-2 barbecued in Clearwater, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, and I mean that 44 is out of 300-ish schools.
Yeah,
something like that. That's not bad. Not
bad. Let's get to the good things. Good thing. Vito, hit me with a good thing.
Softball actually has done very well. Last weekend we wouldn't have said that the same thing, but this weekend we are. So they are 30-22, 9-6 in the AAC. So they flipped the script on what baseball is. They're third in the AAC behind Wichita State and UCF, both are which very elite programs currently, and unfortunately. So every other program in the conference is under 500. So it's those three, and what's that meme? There's the good teams. So there's 3 good teams. There's a mile of crud, and then there's the rest of the conference. I'm just kidding. What is that from? Moneyball. That's it. So since the last show, they had a doubleheader versus Stetson, and they swept that midweek doubleheader 2-1, and then run rule 13-1. Then during that weekend, they got swept by UCF, who again is really good again. So they lost 1-2, 1-3 in extras, and then 0-2. So that stinks. But this past weekend, they flipped the script completely and swept Memphis 5-0, 8-0, and 5-0. So they did not give up a single run the entire weekend. That is not bad. Now, granted, Memphis is bad in softball. They only have 8 wins and only 2 in conference. But that gets you a forward momentum. You get the sweep that you needed to help you stay in the conference hunt, and you needed to get that turnaround. So they didn't allow a single run, and they out-hit Memphis 23-10. Gabriella Nori won games 1 and 3, and Vivian Pond had a weekend. AEC Player of the Week announced today. She slashed 714, 750, and 1.571, which is nuts at the plate, while also tossing 4.1 shutout hitless innings in the circle. So our very own Otani in softball over here had a weekend. That is incredible. 714. Gabrielle Nori also got the AAC honor roll.
Like she didn't miss anything.
Nope. Actually, that's wild.
That's like she didn't get on base off of one hit, basically. And
yep.
Like that's ridiculous.
Yep.
Holy shit.
I'm gonna pull up the stats real quick. If you want to go on, so like that, and then being able to also pitch that well.
I will say this. So AAC softball, I think if you looked at how the preseason like standings were and everything like that, and the coaches poll and everything like that, everyone was pretty much in the correct consensus on what was going to happen this year. It was that USF, UCF, and Wichita State were going to be really fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone else is just going to file in. And that's basically what's happened, because I'm fairly positive. I mean, I know this for a fact at this point, that Wichita State is probably going to host a regional this year. There's a good chance that the road to Omaha is either going to have to go through Oklahoma State, or Wichita State, which is just ridiculous for that state. Mm-hmm. UCF is just pitching. They have one of the most elite pitchers that they've had in recent years, who just pitched a perfect game this past weekend. So we've got that. And then USF, who is very, very good. Like, this is not a bad USF program, but Wichita State's elite right now, and UCF is, if Wichita State wasn't here, would obviously be the best there. But I mean, to have your season be, you swept ECU, you swept Tulsa, you got swept by Wichita, you got swept by UCF, and then you swept Memphis. If you like, that's volatile at its best, and I love that.
Absolute chaos by Coach Ken, and I'm still in shock that after, again, you have one of the best pitchers of all time graduate. You've pretty much held your own, and the pitching again with all the volatility has settled in against, they're winning the games they should, and against the tougher teams they're struggling. But like those games against UCF, it's 2-1, 3-1, 2-0. Like the pitching's there. So, and they have 3 or 4 different girls that can go out there and pitch really, really well. So that's what's amazing to me, that they are able to not replace, but you're able to transition away from Georgina Korick and do a really good job in the circle this year. I'll also add for Vivian Pond that was 5 RBIs and 2 home runs over the weekend as well. So just that's some slugging.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. They really don't like being called Central Florida. Nope, don't call them Central Florida. Please don't.
I really wish we could like bake this team for like another year.
Mm-hmm.
Like keep everyone and like let it run it back next year, because we'll I think Gabriella Nori is going to graduate and be done. Antoinette Hell is going to be done. Thank God. And I think Vivian Pond is a senior as well. They've got a weird amount of seniors, but like they're gonna lose some gals through attrition and everything. And like this is a team that like if they baked in another year, this team would be competing right there with Wichita State.
Yep.
But I'm curious to see how the offseason goes.
Mm-hmm.
They've got talent across the board. Like this team feels much more balanced than the team last year. Obviously, the team last year was elite record wise. You threw Georgina Korick in the circle, you got 2 RBIs, you win the game.
Yeah.
And that was all that team needed. And that's why they were successful. But this team is successful in a very different way. And it feels healthier. Like whenever I see softball win games, I see them getting different contributions from different players.
Yeah.
Kathy Garcia Soto has been incredible this year. Like Emma Humplink has taken some strides this year. Vivian Pond is Shohei Ohtani in the circle. Like it's a healthy team.
Marissa Trivelpiece has been a great addition.
Yes.
The good thing with the pitching staff is like Peyton Dixon, true freshman. Jaden Martinez, who started, is a freshman. So there is some talent on the underclassmen to hopefully carry over. And then you hope that there also is some growth as well. So it's just good, because before it just felt like Korick's going to pitch a gem and we'll just kind of figure it out. Now it's okay. Where the contributors going to come from? We're all going to work together, and they're really good in the field too. So it's good to see that from the squad. So hopefully they can close out strong. It looks like, yep. So we have our final conference series of the year at Houston this weekend. So that'll be a big one. Again, Houston, I don't know, man. I feel like every sport, Houston's always like this year they're below 500, but they're always a tough out in most sports that we play. So it'll be good to be able to see what they can do this weekend. And then they go into the AAC tournament at the USF softball stadium, May 11th through the 13th. So if you're around, you should go, because the conference tournaments in baseball and softball are always super fun, because you're playing a bunch of games and you get a ticket and you pretty much get to watch all the games that happen every day. It's always super exciting. It's a whole weekend. So if you're able to make it out, that'll be an exciting time. So Houston this weekend, and then next weekend, the conference tournament. So let's see what happens.
Let's get it.
So that's it for softball. All right, Stieg, you're more into it than this. What the heck happened with both of our tennis programs the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Oh my gosh,
sucks, man. Well, so the funny thing about how USF's tennis schedule went this year was that it got backloaded, especially in the conference play. Their early conference play was against the weaker teams, and then to close out the year, they had the better teams at the end there. So men's tennis, who going into conference, or going into the last show that we did, was like 12-9 or something like that, 12-10, and then lost every game they had left. They lost to Tulane, They lost to Central Florida. They lost to Tulsa, and they lost to Central Florida again in the AAC tournament. So finished the year on a 4-game losing streak, which sucks because this team was immensely talented. But the positive was that if I recall correctly, and I'm going to look on the website real quick because if I'm correct on this, I'm a genius because I haven't looked at this yet. I'm pretty sure everyone comes back. I don't think they had a senior on the roster. Let me check. They did not have a senior on the roster. Thank God. Because this team is, again, immensely talented. Eric Gravelius, Bruno Oliveira, and David Tortera, which I found out we were pronouncing his name wrong, and Alvin Tortorica. Those are 4 guys that should just be absolutely your top 4 next year. They're gonna feel the pain from this because this sucks. They were literally lined up to go to the postseason, like teeing it up. They if they won one of those remaining games, one of those remaining matches, they absolutely would have made the postseason. But when you drop all 4, you drop out of the top 64, and then you drop out of any sort of contention for that later on. So really, and I'm saying this in the nicest way possible, a really disappointing into a year that should have been much more. But I don't think that this is going to be a damper. I think Ashley Fisher is probably going to reload a little bit too. I think they have an additional scholarship to give too, so they'll have a way to kind of bounce back from this well. But yeah, that not a great way to end the year. And then on the women's side of things, an up and down year for the most part from them. Kind of ended in a way that we expected. They ended the year 13-9. They lost to Memphis. Then they lost to Central Florida, and then they had to face Memphis again in the conference tournament, and they lost again there. I don't know what Memphis put in the water over the last couple of weeks because I think they went into the tournament with like 2 wins in the conference. And
yeah, they were the 6 seed and USF was the 3 seed, and they got trounced. Well, you know, tennis, they lost 4 games to 1. So that's just, it's tough when you're the higher seed and you bow out the first round like that. Still a good season compared to last year. It just, like you said, it's always like, what have you done for me lately? Last year they were able to, steal a win against number 1 seed UCF. So it felt like a really good year, even though they're under 500. This year they're over 500. They look good to start the year. They go on this losing streak and you lose in the first round. It's just not. It's a sour note at the end of what should have been, or what was a good year rather. Yeah,
again, a disappointing loss. And again, and I said it before the show, which I absolutely just jinxed them. If they were, both men's and women's tennis was in line to go to the postseason had they won a game from when our last live show was to this one. So that sucks. The kind of bright side of it is that you're still going to bring back your ace. Sierra Berry is a true sophomore, which is just absolutely ridiculous to think about. So you're bringing back your true ace. Laura Pellissier and Margaret Timmermans are your 2 seniors that are out of eligibility. So those 2 are going to be done. There are 3 additional grad seniors that are still with eligibility that are going to play next year. So you still got that to look forward to kind of rebuild. But yeah, again, a disappointing into the year, but not one where you're going to make any changes from it. I think to get this team above 500 was a great step in the right direction. Next year, I think, is the year that they're going to take the big next stride. I think we'll see Sierra Berry probably start the year ranked and really move her way into the record books here at USF.
Yeah, and both tennis teams ended in the top 60. I know it's not where you want to be, but that's right on the fringe there. So move forward next year, and I'm sure you'll add a couple pieces as well and see what happens. Just to put a cap on men's tennis, it just always felt like all season where it's like, okay, they'll get there. Losses kept piling on, and then they would get some good wins, and then all of a sudden you just go on this 4-game losing streak, and it just puts you under 500. And we'll have to take a look because I don't remember an Ashley Fisher squad being under 500 in recent memory anyway.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, so that's always tough. But sometimes with the losses keep coming, and again, they lost to Tulane, UCF, and Tulsa, and they're all in the top. Tulane's 43, UCS 57, Tulsa 56. That doesn't seem like a tie, but that's still very good out of 300 plus programs. So it's tough. So it's tough to lose in the first round. It's tough to lose to your rival twice for men's tennis. My goodness. And both were hard fought matches. They both lost 4-3, and we were, on the edge of our seats for both of them. So
Literally, like going into like double tiebreaker in the last set. The last time they were under 500 was 2017. They went 10-16. So there's your
I do remember that year.
That was when they had the loaded schedule, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so move on to. I guess we'll go to more disappointing in men's golf. They wrapped up their season. They're finishing 6th place in the AAC championship. They started out 2 under in the first round and just weren't able to keep it up. Sam Nicholson tied for 13th with the 3 over par. Shubham Jaglin. I always say this wrong. Steve, how do you say it?
What was it?
Shubham Jaglin?
Shubham Jaglin.
Yaglin. Okay. I'm going to edit that out. No, I'm not. It's live. Can't. And Nino Palmquist tied for 17th with 5 over par. Houston, Cincy, SMU, UCF, and Memphis were ahead on the leaderboard. USF did tie for first with 3 eagles, though, which is, to me, is more impressive. That's hard. And they were 17 under on par 5s. Also seems very hard. Par 5s are very impossible. I'm bad at golf. Jake knows. I'm bad at golf. It's terrible. So anyway, that's what happened. The NCAA regionals will be announced on this Wednesday. So Stieg, is there a possibility? What do you think?
I have to default to see what Derek Sharp said because like the way that golf decides these things is very strange. I'd imagine that they would have a chance that they would, but let me see what Derek said. I don't think he said anything.
Like over the course of the season, they did fairly well. It just feels like being middle of the pack in the conference tournament is a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, I truthfully don't know. I think Nino Palmquist has a chance to qualify as like a solo participant. Because he had like a really solid year this year. I think he's ranked in like the top 20 of international students as well. So he might have a chance, but I don't know how they would be as a team. They ended the year pretty hot aside from this. So I think anything's possible with golf. I don't know how they decide these things either. I'm going to be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it kind of escapes me because like there's no resume to like match things up with because you're kind of like comparing apples to oranges, how one team played on one field versus this other course halfway across the country. So we'll find out.
Yep.
We'll all find out together.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I'm trying to. I love how that's always like. It's like, what does Derek Sharp say? We should get Derek Sharp on the show.
Derek knows this shit. Like Derek is one of the smartest guys when it comes to knowing who's going to be like on the fringe. Like him and for anyone interested in softball, Eric Lopez, who's formerly with the Black and Gold Banneret. I think he's doing just softball now. He accurately predicted the entire field of 64, who was hosting and who was going to each one last year for softball. It was incredible. He posted a graphic and like was like, "Yep, this is what it's going to be," and was right to a T.
Wow, that's incredible. I can't even. Yeah, that's actually right. There was a transitioning a little bit to former alumni. Chase Koepka had a hole-in-one in is it Live or LIV Live Golf? Anyway, he had a hole-in-one. That was pretty crazy. You don't see hole-in-ones often, and again,
there's
impossible. Don't know how it does it. Is it a roach?
No, it's like a moth.
Okay. Too bad you don't have a cat. The cat would eat, smack it.
Babe, we need a cat.
Yeah, I fully support it. We are a cat blog here, a cat podcast, fully. I closed the door so the cat won't be on camera. That happens a lot, as some of you know.
Go to the good stuff, Vito. What's give me some good news.
We're gonna do women's golf. It's a theme that the women's teams are better than the men's teams in this year, most years. Anyway, women's golf. Came in 5th place, even par in the AC Championships. Junior Melanie Green, who's a wizard, finished 4th with 5 under par. Her 8th top 10 finish of the year, which is, eight top 10 finishes is incredible. Lauren Highland tied for 11th with finishing 1 under. So you had 2 in the top 11. And what happened based on their very excellent year that they had this year, Steve?
They did a thing.
They won, or they
got the NCAA at large for women's golf. They're going to the postseason, baby.
That's the one. And this is the first time in 11 years that they get an NCAA tournament bid. So Erica Brennan, third year,
yeah.
Third year, got this program from where it was to their first tournament bid in 11 years. That's pretty crazy. It's their 15th program.
There's no way we're keeping her.
Stop saying that. You and your jinxing. It's the 15th program regional in USF history for them. So May 8th through the 10th next week at Palm Beach Gardens will be their regional. It's a 12-team field that includes, this is going to be tough, number 1 LSU, number 2 Texas, and number 3 the Fightin' Will Kennedy's Northwestern.
Hell yeah.
It's tough. Northwestern's good at women's golf too.
How do they do it in the snow? Yeah. All the kudos to Coach Erica because again, an absolute grand slam on and to go up, face the mountain that was repairing USF women's golf. Did it in the best way possible. Just an absolute advocate for the university too. We are a big fan of Coach here at the Daily Stampede and on the USF Roundup. In her 5th full season. That's incredible.
5th full season. Okay, so she, COVID melted my brain with how time works. There was a quote I pulled from USFBulls.com. Brennan, in her 5th full season, said USF's NCAA at-large bid was the ultimate validation for the way we try to do things, which is not the easy way. It's nice to finally have that. It's a regional bid, but it's nice to be able to have that to be able to point to and say we're making progress and we're getting great players and we're able to do this. So looking forward to that regional. Hopefully that they can make some noise, make the first cut, maybe, see what happens, but that's always good to see.
I did want to say this because I remember this so distinctly when we hired her. And I'm half joking about she is going to get pushed away from us. But when Erica Brennan got hired, I remember so distinctly in our press conference, she said, "This is my dream job. This is a place right on the cusp, right on the tipping point of being successful. It's just a matter of connecting the dots." And I remember she said that, and I remember this was right around the time that I got brought on the Daily Stampede, and I just remember Nate being like, "Good one, like no fucking way, like have fun being here for a little bit. Like this ain't a dream job." To see it come kind of full circle for her like that is just incredible to see.
Who knew that connecting the dots means recruiting an ace like Melanie Green? That helps, right?
Just recruit the best golfer in like the South in the Northeast at the time. It's easy.
And hiring, who's the assistant coach who's super active on social?
Dalton Stevens.
Dalton Stevens.
Yeah, the one that's really sexy.
He's handsome,
really
too.
Sexy. He's real sexy.
Oh man! But
I hope he listens.
That'd be great. So shout out to Coach Brennan. It's great to see that validation. All right, so we have a couple more sports. We're going to jump into sailing, which for those of you who have listening for the first time, we don't know much about. So we just kind of put what we think. All right, so the last time that we saw the last regatta that they played in, they were 12th out of 12. Well, this time around, the past 2 regattas that they were in, 5th out of 15 in the Emily Wick Women's Regatta in New England, Connecticut. Head of nationally ranked number 10 MIT and number 14 Tufts, aka the Nerds. But that's not it. Last weekend in the SAISA Women's Racing Conference Championships, they finished 2nd in fleet racing and team racing, which means they qualified for the national championships May 23rd through 26th in New York. You finish second, you qualify for the national championships. See what happens? You just kind of figure it out the whole regular season, and then you go to the national championships and the conference championships. I don't know what most of this means, but hey, we're gonna love it. I love in the article that they write, and I want to talk to whoever writes them. They're saying like the weather was a crisp 48 degrees, and the wind was at northwest at 14 knots, and I'm like, yes. Absolutely. I agree here. That was good knowledge for me to understand how they won this match, regatta. So again, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to go to USF St. Pete and ask Coach Jolly, can you teach us sailing? Not physically sailing, just teach us like what any of this means.
I'm going to show up in a pirate hat and in full pirate garb and just be an asshole the entire time.
Yar, teach me sailing.
Teach me to sail.
I will say it seems like they have a lot of freshman phenom. One of them is Emma Shakespeare. Was on the. Oh, okay. So yeah, 2 freshmen, Emma Shakespeare and Janie Powell, and 2 sophomore Heidi Hicks and Sydney Monahan seem to be on a good team together, and yeah, that's all I was gonna say. So it's good to have a mix of upperclassmen and underclassmen and doing really well. Again, sailing. USF is a sailing school, and if you haven't, go to homefieldapparel.com and get the sailing shirt. National champions.
Such a good shirt. Such a good shirt. If that's what USF is like really known for, I'm proud.
Yeah,
Fucking hilarious.
What name a more Tampa sport? I think someone said fishing, but like, is there competitive fish? There probably is. There's competitive meat judging, so there's a lot of weird stuff. If you don't follow Sicko's committee, do it, because at the end of every academic year, they say all of the like very like odd national champions that everyone's win.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of weird stuff in Texas, man.
I will say there was one this past weekend that not this past weekend, it was like 2 or 3 weekends ago. The women's bowling national championship happened, and it was Vanderbilt, Arkansas State. And it was like, if I'm recalling this correctly, it was Arkansas State's like 12th straight year in the national championship or something ridiculous like that. I was like, you couldn't pin a T on that. That would be so perfect, as Arkansas State being like a nationally competitive women's bowling school. Well, we're gonna blow through the track and field stuff, because to name through all their accomplishments would be quite a lot. But we're gonna give the same kudos that we always do. Track and field is very legitimate at USF now. This is a very legitimate program under Eric Jenkins. We can never say any more good things about him. And to start it off, Romaine Beckford remains undefeated. They competed at the Penn Relays over this past weekend. Penn Relays is a national circuit, so this includes some big programs. In fact, the guy that came in second was from Ohio State, and he was previously undefeated. So now we're starting in the outdoor section of track and field. So the season was divided up in indoor first, outdoor second. Romaine Beckford wins the Penn Relays for the 2nd straight year in a row. Joining him alongside the championship side of things was who was it? The women's 4x200 won the women's 4x200 won their meet as well at the Penn Relays. That was Nia Burton, Chanel X. Benjamin. Cannot remember the first names of Peterson and Anderson, but they also won as well. And I'm looking at it. Let's see. Nia Robinson got 2nd place in the women's long jump at 6.44 meters. Kobe Babin got 3rd in pole vault.
Our mustached friend.
Yeah, the guy, he looks like the guy from Candy Kirkland, and I will never let him live it down. And then Sanique Walker got 3rd in the women's 400 meter championship. So this program is getting better and better as they continue onward and upward. If you guys haven't been reading, the USF cross country and track and field Twitter account posts little like get to know whomever's, and that's a really good indication of how well Eric Jenkins has been recruiting for USF track and field. They're pulling in some really top-notch athletes. Someone in the Discord earlier asked, how are they stacking up when it comes to recruiting? There's no metrics. There's no like, they got the number 4 pole vaulter in the state or something like that. Like usually at some point, if you're competing in high school track and field, and at some point you probably want to meet, and if you're going to be playing in college, like no shit, sure, like you probably want to meet at some point in your life. But the people that they're bringing in, these are legitimate competitors. These are really good athletes. And I think the next step for this program is to finally get good at distance running. At some point, they got to start competing in the 5,000 meters. At some point, they got to start competing in cross country. They can't continuously come in last place in these events always.
Steve, running is hard. Running outside long distance is hard, man.
Running sucks.
I'm not blaming any of these guys, but man, that cross country. It's funny because they're good in the relays and the short to mid distance, but when it comes to cross country, especially early in the season, you just see that it's just not. It's not there. Just to transition real quick, there is so the AAC Outdoor Championships will happen May 12th through the 14th. And then from there's an NCAA East preliminary first before the Outdoor Championships, which are actually in Austin, Texas, apparently this season.
Yes, instead of Oregon.
Very strange. I assumed Eugene had a stranglehold in that, but I guess that's technically more mid. Not mid. Sorry, more Middle America to get to.
Right.
But yes, the NCAA East preliminaries are May 24th.
I think the reason why is I think that stadium is under construction. I think they're doing something. Because they also do all the stuff for like USA track and field. So there's something else going on. I remember seeing that, and I remember being like, that's not right. But yeah, so they're, and barring poor results, Romain should be competing for the national championship this year again, like he just did for the indoor. But he's got to get there. He's got to compete. He knows it. So we're looking forward to seeing him compete over the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm. We
did it. An hour and 2 minutes, Vito.
Yeah, that's actually incredible. We got through so many freaking sports. Okay, Steve, time for everyone's favorite segment, the Fella and Bella of the week /2 week /3 week /month. Who you got?
So, Bella of the week, Melanie Green has just been incredible. That's the only way to describe how well she is at golf. I mean, I believe they had her most recently ranked in the top 20 nationally for collegiate golf. If you're ranked in the top 20 to me, that's good enough for me. Vito, who's your Bella?
My Bella of the week is Vivian Pon, for getting the AAC Player of the Week in softball for pretty much only getting all of the hits that she had, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, and also pitching scoreless, hitless innings against Memphis and doing her best Shohei Ohtani impression. I almost got it. I was more worried about the first name. So Vivian Pon is my Bella of the week. That is a huge honor and a great weekend for her. Hopefully she can continue that this weekend.
Oh, hell. I'm going to change my fella of the week slightly. Mostly because I mean, we're going to give praise for Romain Beckford forever at this point, but without fault on this one. I know the team is struggling, but Eric Snow has just continuously been a consistent threat as a freshman here for USF baseball. I can't recall his stat line off the top of my head, but had the team not got swept, he probably would have been on the AAC honor roll at the very least. If they won the series, they probably would have been. They probably would have put him as the player. Dude was lights out this past week against Cincinnati. He's been a consistent hitter for USF, and he's been I think they've been calling it flurry every time he hits a home run. But yeah, he's fantastic.
He's great. He hits for average. He hits home runs. He could steal bases. He does he is amazing in the field. He's got a couple web gems. One in the game that Jake and I saw. He's great, and as a true freshman, just coming in, starting, and being this elite, I look forward to see what the rest of his career is because he's doing really, really well. My fellow of the week is just Romain Beckford. I said this when we started early on in January. As long as he keeps undefeated, he's the fellow of the week. I mean, not a single loss. Pretty much has every top 5 record in USF record books and won the Penn Relays. Let's see how far he can go here because you have the AAC Outdoor Championships, which is actually hosted at USF. then NCAA East preliminaries, then the national championships. And if he continues this with what he's doing at the clip he's doing it, no reason he can't end the year undefeated. So my fell of the week, Romaine Beckford.
Hell yeah, we did it.
Oh my
All right,
gosh,
Vito.
we did it.
5 minutes in, we did it, and it's what we do best, baby.
Hopefully, we're not going to wait another 3 weeks for the next time around. This is another edition of the USF Roundup. It's going to be May. Can't believe it's May already, Stieg. But we are coming towards the end of the academic and the athletic year. So that's all I got. Everybody, have fun. Be safe. Stieg, send us off.
Go Bulls.
Go Bulls indeed. And for those of you who are graduating or attending graduation, congratulations, everybody. Graduating is a good time. And yeah, go Bulls. See ya.